affidavit of Special Agent Cheney Castruda in support of government's motion for detention. So Cheney Castruda, have been sworn in state. So first of all, I want to point out this document is 45 pages long, so I'm probably not going to be able to get to all of it today, but I'm going to try my best. So let's get started on this one. All right, so introduction and agent background. One, I have been a special agent with the Federal Bureau of Investigation since June of 2022. I am currently assigned to the Public Corruption and Civil Rights Squad of FBI's Boston Division, where I investigate public corruption and civil rights offenses. So, public corruption and civil rights. Sandra's civil rights were taken from her multiple times, like when Farwell tracked her or when he coerced her into doing things he didn't want or she didn't want to do. So, yeah, he violated her civil rights. I am a graduate of the FBI Academy of Quantico, Virginia, and I have received on the job training and attended courses sponsored by the FBI and Department of Justice on how to conduct investigations regarding violations of various federal laws. I am a federal law enforcement officer within the meaning of Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 41A2C. 2. The facts in this affidavit come from my personal observations and review of records, my training and experience, and information obtained from other agents and witnesses. This affidavit is filed in connection with the government's motion for detention. Therefore, it does not set forth all of my own and other investigators' knowledge about this matter. Number 3, I submit this affidavit in connection with the government's motion to detain defendant Matthew Farwell pending trial. As alleged in the indictment charging Farwell with violating 18 U.S.C. 1512 A1C and is further described below, on February 1st, 2021, Farwell took the life of Sandra Birchmore with the intent to prevent her from communicating to law enforcement certain information regarding Farwell's commission or possible commission of the following federal crimes. A. Using a facility or means of interstate commerce to persuade, induce, entice, or coerce then 15-year-old Birchmore to engage in unlawful physical intimate intercourse in violation of 18 USC. I'm not going to read all the statutes. So in violation of 18 whatever statute, which is coercion and enticement. So that is the coercion and enticement part. Using a facility or means of interstate commerce, so his car, to persuade, induce, entice, or coerce then 15-year-old Birchmore to engage in certain acts. B. Depriving Birchmore of certain rights secured by the United States Constitution by committing statutory R while acting under the color of law in the violation of 18 U.S.C. 242 and participating in a scheme to defraud the Stoughton Police Department and Town of Stoughton through false representations or material omissions after the hours Farwell worked in order to receive compensation for official time when he was in fact engaging in relations with Birchmore. So basically, he was stealing time. He was stealing company time and doing these acts on company time. So therefore, stealing company time, defrauding Stoughton Police of what he was doing on the job. Overview of the investigation. Number 4. On February 1st, 2021, then Stoughton Police Detective Matthew Farwell took the life of Sandra Birchmore. Farwell committed this homicide at least in part to prevent Birchmore from disclosing to authorities information regarding his commission of possible commission of one or more crimes, including coercion and enticement in violation of said statute, deprivation of rights under color of law in violation of another statute, and a then ongoing wire fraud scheme in violation of statute 1343. Farwell's homicide of Birchmore was the culmination of Farwell's years long pattern of ABUSE targeting Birchmore. Number 5. When she was a young girl, Sandra Birchmore was interested in pursuing a career in law enforcement and eventually joined the Stoughton Police Explorers Academy, herein after Police Explorers, to learn more about law enforcement careers. While Birchmore was in the program, Farwell was involved as both a volunteer and an instructor. Farwell used his authority and access to groom, exploit, and ultimately abuse then 15-year-old Birchmore. Farwell continued this physical, intimate ABUSE after Birchmore became an adult, and he continued to engage in an extramarital relationship with Birchmore until he took her life on February 1st. So basically, um, once she became an adult, it was no longer illegal necessarily, but he still was using his authority and his power, his ability to manipulate her to coerce her to get what he wanted out of the relationship. So he still had that level of I'm an authority figure and you're beneath me type of dynamic going on because that's how the relationship started. So there are signs that in late 2020 and early 2021, Farwell was losing control of Birchmore and the information she possessed about his past and then ongoing conduct. In or around December 2020, Birchmore became pregnant. Soon thereafter, Birchmore told Farwell that he was the father of her child and she wanted him to be more involved in the planning for the impending birth. In January 2021, Birchmore's friend contacted Farwell's employer, Stoughton Police Department, and during that call referenced Farwell and Birchmore's illicit physical relationship. Shortly thereafter, a Stoughton Police Department employee told Farwell about the call. By the end of January 2021, Farwell faced the specter of additional disclosures to law enforcement regarding his prior SA of Sandra Birchmore and the then ongoing efforts to defraud the Stoughton Police Department and Town of Stoughton by meeting her for having relations when he was supposed to be on duty as an officer. On February 1st, 2021, Farwell went to Birchmore's apartment in Canton, Massachusetts, wearing a COVID-19 medical face mask. We've watched the video before on this channel. Once inside, he took her life and staged her body and apartment to make it clear that Birchmore had lost her life by a self-deletion. On February 4th, 2021, 3 days after the homicide, members of the Canton Police Department went to Birchmore's apartment to conduct a well-being check because police or coworkers had called in a wellness check because they were concerned she hadn't shown up to work for a few days. Why they waited from February 1st until the 4th, I don't know. Maybe she wasn't scheduled to work every day, but she wasn't there for multiple days in a row, and that's when they called. So when police officers entered Birchmore's apartment, they found her body. A paramedic determined that Birchmore was no longer alive and her body was transported to the office of the chief medical examiner herein after the OCME, the office of the chief medical examiner. We'll just call them the medical examiner. All right, so in early May 2021, the medical examiner pathologist ruled Birchmore's manner of loss of life to be self-deletion. Evidence that Farwell committed federal offenses or possibly committed federal offenses by SAing Birchmore when she was a minor. Matthew Farwell started exploiting Sandra Birchmore no later than 2013 when she was 15 years old. We got a footnote here. She was born in 1985. 85? I thought she was born in 97. Oh, Farwell was born in 85. Sorry, Farwell's born in 85. Good, okay. That makes more sense because I was confused there for a second. At that time, Birchmore was enrolled in the Police Explorers. Farwell used his position of trust and authority as a sworn police officer and instructor in the Police Explorers to groom Birchmore. Ultimately, Farwell SA'd Birchmore, including by engaging in intercourse with her. Number 11, the Explorers Program is a vocational education program that enables youth to explore career paths such as careers in law enforcement. Police departments throughout the country partner with the Explorers Program to create what are commonly known as local police explorers programs. The Stoughton Police Department chartered and facilitated the Stoughton Police Explorers. It was a quasi paramilitary program designed to expose youth participants to various aspects of policing. And this quasi paramilitary program, it was actually described that way by Robert Devine, who was the head of the program. So he made it that way. He made it quasi paramilitary. It didn't have to be that way. It could be just like a learning experience, but no, he's got to make it more like you guys are in the military and we're going to drill you and train you and whatever. So Farwell became a member of the Wellesley Police Department in '08. On March 27th, 2012, he was hired by the Stoughton Police Department, where he worked until he resigned on April 1st of 2022. He voluntarily resigned after it was found out everything that was going on, and he voluntarily decertified as well. So that was in April of 2022. I believe he just decertified this year, though. So I'm not sure. But, anyways, so after joining the Stoughton Police Department, he served as a police explorers instructor. He had several roles as an instructor, including teaching firearms and explosive safety and conducting canine demonstrations. All right, Farwell did canine demonstrations. At the time, Farwell was already familiar with the police explorers because he had also been a participant as a teenager. In March 2010, Sandra Birchmore applied to be a Police Explorers participant. At that time, Birchmore was 12 years old. She began participating in the program in the spring of 2010 and she remained in the program until 2016. Farwell began to groom Sandra Birchmore when she was a child. Based on my training experience, grooming is the process of a predator building a relationship with a child or vulnerable adult in order to gain their trust, enabling the groomer to ultimately exploit the child or otherwise vulnerable person. So that is their explanation of grooming. This grooming culminated in Farwell R-ing Birchmore in April 2013 when she was only 15 years old. And we have another footnote. Under Massachusetts law, any intercourse with a person under the age of 16 is unlawful and constitutes SA, specifically statutory R. Furthermore, any person who has relations with a child under the age of 16, being at least 10 years older than that child at the time of the intercourse, is guilty of aggravated S, a statutory R. Finally, any mandated reporter who has relations with a child under 16 is guilty of aggravated statutory R. So he would have been a mandatory reporter being a police officer, I'm assuming, so that might get him there. Plus he was what, 27? Yeah, 27 and she was 15, so that's over 10 years also. So it would be aggravated statutory R. During the relevant time period as the Stoughton police officer, Farwell was a mandatory reporter under Massachusetts law. Exactly. So as a police officer, you're bound to the mandatory reporter law. All right, so the grooming culminated at the time of the assault. Farwell was 27 years old. Farwell continued to SA Birchmore prior to her 18th birthday. After Birchmore turned 18 years old, Farwell continued cultivating a relationship with her that lasted until when she lost her life on February 1st by his hands. I'll just say allegedly, but most likely. So electronic messages between Farwell and Birchmore indicate that Farwell essayed Birchmore when she was a child. After Birchmore's loss of life, law enforcement agents obtained Birchmore's cell phone, both Apple iPhones and laptop, and reviewed the data on those devices. During that review, agents discovered messages between Farwell and Birchmore. The messages confirmed that Farwell frequently communicated with Birchmore for years. The messages also indicate that Farwell had relations with Birchmore when she was a minor, starting in or around April 2013 when Birchmore was 15 years old and Farwell was 27. So there's data, there's proof from their data extractions that these texts were going back and forth. He was controlling, he was grooming her, he was manipulating her, he was getting her to perform acts with him that were of an adult nature. So, data from Birchmore's Facebook account reveals aspects of the beginning of Farwell and Birchmore's online communications. Specifically, Facebook data indicates that Farwell sent Birchmore a Facebook friend request on October 28, 2022. At that time, Birchmore was 15 years old and participant in the Police Explorers. Farwell was her 26-year-old instructor, 11 years older than her, asking to be a friend on Facebook. Parents, pay attention to what your kids are doing online. All right, so on February 21st, 2019, Birchmore and Farwell had a text message conversation about Farwell taking Birchmore's virginity. Birchmore told Farwell that she was happy that he, quote unquote, took it. Later in the same conversation, Farwell acknowledged that it was, quote, a big thing to get to be the first, end quote. Ugh. All right, so in this same text conversation, Farwell also reminisced about the first time he digitally penetrated Birchmore's vagina. Discussing the day that occurred, Farwell asked Birchmore what she would have done if he told her that he wanted her that day. Birchmore responded that she would have told him that he could have relations with her after school. Like, how innocent is that? After school. Ugh. She also recalled the specific class and seat that she was in when she realized that she was going to lose her virginity to Farwell. Based on my investigation, I believe that this occurred during the 2012-2013 school year when Birchmore was 15. Additionally, on March 19th, 2019, Farwell asked Birchmore, "What would you have done if we never used a condom and I never pulled out?" Birchmore reassured Farwell that she would have still finished school. Birchmore then told Farwell, "I love prom night. It was worth not going to prom." So she must have spent prom night with him. Again, just gross. And because she's a victim of his, like, she thinks this is cool. Like, she thinks this is love and this is what a relationship is supposed to be. Because she's young, vulnerable, she doesn't have her dad in her life, her parents, her mom and her grandma passed away at a certain, right around the same time period, within like a couple months apart. And so she's kind of on her own, and she's this young, frail, fragile child in this program, and this jerk, which is like the nicest word I could call him possible, this jerk is doing these things to her to take her innocence, and it's so disgusting. Sorry. Let's continue on. On February 11th, 2020, Birchmore and Farwell discussed the exact day that Farwell took then 15-year-old Birchmore's virginity. Here's a text string. Birchmore says, "I had butterflies so bad the day you took my virginity." Farwell says, "Me too. It was such a big day." Still know the date to this day, Birchmore says. Farwell says, "Really?" She says, "Yes." He puts a smiley face. She says, "That's not a date I'll ever forget." Birchmore says, "It was April 10th, 2013. Well, there you go. There you go. There's your proof that relations were happening before she was 16. He smiles. She says, "Best day of my life." Face with heart emoji. And he says, "Me too." Gross. On June 19th, 2020, Birchmore and Farwell had the following conversation in which Farwell reminisced about his past criminal SA of Birchmore. She said, "I'm glad you agreed to take my virginity, though." He says, "Me too." He also says, "LOL, if I pushed, I absolutely could have effed you without condoms from day one." She said, "Probably if you really pushed it." She continues, "I was kind of scared to say no in the beginning, not knowing how you'd take it. So yeah, you would have got no condoms. LOL." So she's admitting right here she was kind of scared to say no in the beginning, but she wanted to. She wouldn't have said that if she didn't want to say no. That's a good example of showing what abuse is like. All right, so other electronic messages confirm that Farwell SA'd Birchmore when she was a child. Text messages between Birchmore and others confirm that Farwell SA'd Birchmore as a child and continued a physical relationship with her until she lost her life. For example, on October 5th, 2020, Birchmore texted one of her friends, herein after person one, that Farwell had been having relations with her for the last almost 10 years and that Farwell had taken her virginity before she was 16. On May 20th, 2020, Birchmore told another friend that she had lost her virginity 5 days before the Boston Marathon bombing, which took place April 15th, 2023, which puts that at the date that, what did she say? It was April 10th? April 10th. She told a friend that she had lost her virginity 5 days before the Boston Marathon bombing, which was the 15th. So, yeah, April 10th. There you go. Also, on October 5th, 2020, Birchmore prepared a draft text message to Farwell's wife. Okay, so there's more motivation that Farwell would want her out of the picture. She's starting to become a problem now. She's starting to talk to people. She's starting to tell people she's pregnant. She's not a kid anymore, so you can't hide her like you were. She has, the ability to go out and make friends and do things, even though he's tracking her the whole time, but he wants to control her and the situation, but he's losing control. His wife now may find out about her, which means that he could lose his relationship with his wife, his marriage, his relationship with his kids. He was about to have a third child, so his wife was pregnant when Birchmore was pregnant. So there's a lot at stake here. And for if Birchmore was maybe threatening to go to his wife, that could have been motive to perhaps stop her somehow, one way or another. So the text states in part, "I am just messaging to inform you that your husband Matthew has been out cheating on you since before you guys were even married." Wow. So this is her text to Mrs. Matthew Farwell. She says, "I am unaware that," or continuing on with the report, it says, "I am unaware that Farwell and his wife got married. I am aware that they got married in May 2013, shortly before Birchmore turned 16. Ugh. Say those words 10 times fast. Before Birchmore turned 16 years old. So he was grooming and doing these things to her while he was also dating and engaged to his wife, is what that means. Other text messages between Farwell and Birchmore demonstrate his interest in minors. On June 15th, 2019, Farwell and Birchmore exchanged text messages in which they discussed role playing during their next encounter. Farwell asked Birchmore how old she was going to pretend to be during that encounter. When Birchmore responded 14, Farwell replied with a smiling face emoji. In another conversation between Farwell and Birchmore on February 21st, 2020, Farwell describes pinning Birchmore down during their physical acts and asking her, will you say, Matt, stop? I'm 13. I'm not ready for this. Oh my effing God, please stop. Um, okay, that's what he wanted her to say. I have also reviewed several text messages from 2020 in which Farwell instructs Birchmore to act as if he were her older brother coming into her room at night to have relations with her. Ew. Witnesses confirm that Farwell cultivated a close relationship with Birchmore when she was a child. I wonder if he has any more victims. Just curious. There might be more in the Explorers program that haven't come out yet with their truth, but I encourage them to come forward with your truth and put this guy, give him the gas. Let's get him to get the gas. Make sure he goes down for not just Sandra, but for baby Birchmore. We need justice for baby Birchmore too. And for anyone else that he may have done anything inappropriate to. We need justice for those folks. All right, so agents have interviewed one of Birchmore's friends here in After Person 2 regarding Birchmore's relationship with Farwell. Person 2 indicated that shortly before her loss of life, Birchmore revealed to him or her that Farwell started having relations with Birchmore when she was only 15 years old. Agents have also interviewed one of Birchmore's relatives who describes being aware that Birchmore would meet with Farwell when Birchmore was a minor. Specifically, this family member indicated that around the time Birchmore was a freshman in high school, she would tell him or her that she was meeting with Farwell so he could help her with homework. This was before Birchmore was a freshman in high school from September 2011 to June 2012. Huh? Oh, a freshman. Sorry. I was like, she went to high school during 1 year. That was when she was a freshman. So she was a freshman at this time. So again, she would be under 16. And going and getting homework help from Farwell. I have reviewed a text message exchange between Farwell and Birchmore from June 17th, 2019, where the two discuss how Farwell had helped her test prep at the library. Farwell told Birchmore that she should have told him that she was interested in having relations with him that day. Birchmore told him that she was scared to speak up. Farwell then asked her, "Did you think I wouldn't want to F you?" Birchmore responded, "Yes, and like 'cause of my age, I didn't want you to be like, no, WTF." Farwell then told her, "I understand that." In a conversation from April 5th, 2020, Farwell told Birchmore that he knew he wanted to take her virginity when he started helping her with schoolwork. Additionally, on February 21st, 2020, Birchmore and Farwell reminisced about when they first became physically active. Birchmore says, "I listened better back then, though." Farwell says, "I wish it had been a year sooner after helping you study at the library. You still listen and give me whatever I want, baby." Ugh. Birchmore says, "I didn't even make you wait a year after that. And good, but I don't think you're going to get what you want next time." So, and he says, "Of course I will. I'll just take it." She says, "That's what you think. Good luck with that." He says, that just is so telling of his personality. "Of course I will. I'll just take it. Whatever I want, I'll just take it from you." So gross. She says, "That's what you think. Good luck with that." He says, "What was the first day you said, 'OMG, I want this guy to be my first. I want to feel him inside me'?" She says, "Yeah, so 2012, I finally decided that I was going to try and find a way to F you and just wasn't sure how." This is so cringe. "How did you feel when I asked to make your dream come true?" He said, "Amazing!" Exclamation point. She says, "Good. I absolutely would have effed you at 12." In 12? Oh, in 2012 is when he says he would have effed her. All right. Agents have also interviewed one of Birchmore's childhood friends hereinafter person 3. Person 3 confirmed that Birchmore would meet Farwell to help with her homework. Moreover, person 3 indicated that Birchmore confided in him or her that she was meeting with Farwell in early high school to have relations with him in his police car or his truck. So there you have it. She was lots of encounters in police cars. Evidence that Farwell committed federal offenses or possibly committed federal offenses by submitting false information to obtain wages for time spent engaging in acts with Birchmore. Farwell defrauded the Stoughton Police Department and the town of Stoughton. On multiple occasions, Farwell engaged in physical acts with Birchmore while on duty as a Stoughton police officer. To cover this up, Farwell falsely represented that he had worked certain hours when in truth and in fact he was not working. Rather, he was engaging in physical acts or spending time with Birchmore. Accordingly, Farwell's misconduct was also part of a scheme to obtain wages from the Stoughton Police Department, an agency of the town of Stoughton, through false statements or material omissions regarding the hours he was on duty and working as a police officer. This has been a big thing, not just for Farwell, but a lot of Stoughton police officers are getting, or not Stoughton, just officers in Massachusetts, period, are getting um, caught for defrauding their agency for overtime when they're really not working or whatever it may be. But they say they are. So, anyways, Farwell's text messages with Birchmore indicate that he had relations with Birchmore while he was on duty as a Stoughton police officer. Text messages between Farwell and Birchmore indicate that on multiple occasions Farwell left work during his shifts to meet and at times engage in physical activity with Birchmore. These encounters occurred at various locations, including Birchmore's previous home in Stoughton, her more recent apartment in Canton, a Costco parking lot in Stoughton, and a Five Guys parking lot in Canton. Examples of dates and approximate start times of these encounters are listed. April 10th, 2020 at 11:46 p.m., May 1st, 2020, 11:10 p.m., May 20th, 7:14 p.m., July 1st, 9:36 p.m. I'm not going to continue reading. You can see there are many encounters. So 3 encounters in September, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in October, 2, 3, 4, 5 in November, 3 in December, 4 in January. So that's a lot of encounters. That was going on from April 2020 through January 29th, 2021 until she lost her life. Oh, no. February 1st is when she lost her life. But it was continuing on up until then. So January 29th, 2021, that was just a few days before she lost her life. I have reviewed messages that reveal that both Farwell and Birchmore knew that some of their encounters occurred while Farwell was on duty. For example, on April 10th, 2020, so the very first one, Farwell wrote, "I'm going to sneak away from work quick." On November 24th, 2020, Birchmore asked if Farwell would be on duty when the two were scheduled to meet. Farwell responded, "Yes, I will be on the clock." So he knew he was on the clock. He admits it right there. The text messages between Farwell and Birchmore, which precede several of the above listed encounters, contain statements indicating that the purpose for at least some of the encounters was to engage in physical acts. For example, on several occasions, Farwell sent Birchmore text messages directing her to act as if she was being AR'd during the ensuing encounter. He's got a weird, disgusting habit, fetish, I don't know. So C. Farwell's scheme to defraud caused interstate wire communications. The town of Stoughton pays Stoughton police officers on a biweekly basis. In or around 2020 and January 2021, Farwell received his paychecks via direct deposit to his account at USAA Federal Savings Bank. The paycheck funds originated with Rockland Trust Bank and were deposited in Farwell's account via an automated clearinghouse transfer. Each ACH transfer originated outside of Massachusetts and or traveled through another state before terminating in Farwell's account. Accordingly, it appears that by engaging in physical conduct when he should have been performing official duties as police officer and obtaining pay for that time, Farwell may have committed wire fraud in violation of said statute. Interesting. Wire fraud somehow. Farwell took, I don't know. I think that's kind of reaching, but maybe, I don't know the law very well, especially this federal law when it comes to interstate wire communications. But he received his paychecks via one bank. The paychecks originated in Rockland Trust and were deposited via an ACH, and then that originated outside of Massachusetts and or traveled through another state before entering into his account. So because his paychecks entered another state, that's interstate wire fraud. I don't know if I agree with that, but okay. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe somebody else can explain that better, but that's what I took of that. All right, so Farwell took the life of Birchmore to prevent her from disclosing information about his commission of federal crimes and possible commission of federal crimes. As described in detail below, there is evidence that Farwell took the life of Birchmore on February 1st, 2021, to prevent her from disclosing information about his possible commission of the federal crimes listed above. All right, so now let's move on to Birchmore's pregnancy. On October 5th, 2020, person one told Birchmore that Farwell's wife was pregnant with the couple's third child. So this is just a few months before she dies. Person one indicated that the baby was due in February of 2021. Birchmore responded that she was going to tell Farwell's wife that he had been having relations with her for nearly 10 years. In summary, electronic messages between Farwell and Birchmore for the period beginning on or about October 5th, 2020 through January 2021 indicate that Birchmore presented Farwell with an ultimatum. Farwell would have to agree to engage in unprotected sex with Birchmore with the goal of conceiving a child, and in return, Birchmore would not disclose their relationship. Oh, really? This is news. So she gave him let me read that again. So Birchmore presented Farwell with an ultimatum. Farwell would have to agree to engage in unprotected sex with Birchmore with the goal of conceiving a child, and in return, Birchmore would not disclose their relationship. She was blackmailing him. Birchmore had already told others that Farwell had been having relations with her since she was 16, which she knew was a crime, and Birchmore knew that Farwell was leaving work to have relations with her while he was on duty as a Stoughton officer. According to text messages between Farwell and Birchmore, Birchmore sent Farwell a photo of her ovulation schedule, and the two started discussing timing their relations around specific times in Birchmore's cycle. So she was mad that Farwell's wife was pregnant. She was probably jealous of his relationship with his wife and kids. And so she wanted that too. And maybe she said, hey, if you don't do this with me, I'm going to tell everybody what's been going on. So, but that's kind of ballsy for her to do to someone who's been abusing her whole life. So, pretty ballsy to do, Birchmore. Good for you, at least, for standing up to him. All right, so she would send her ovulation schedule, and the two started discussing timing their encounters around specific times in Birchmore's schedule. Approximately 1 week after Farwell agreed to have unprotected sex in order to conceive a child, Farwell and Birchmore had a disagreement about the terms of their agreement. The following is an excerpt from a text conversation on October 12th, 2020. Farwell says, I said the agreement was once that was our compromise. Birchmore said, I asked if we could try this month, didn't realize that meant you F me once, lol. And then I asked if we could try through this year, and you said I'd think about it. The conversation continued on October 13th. Farwell says, our compromise was try once. Birchmore said, yeah, it was to try this month. Birchmore says, so you're thinking about the second thing I said as far as the rest of the year? And he says, you said try once this month. If it happens, it's meant to be. Those are the exact words. So those were communication. You could see his hesitancy in wanting to do it, and she's pushing for it. Text messages indicate that a few weeks later, Birchmore continued to discuss trying to get pregnant. On October 3rd, 2020, she asked Farwell if they could try again that month or whether they would need to talk in person about that. Farwell responded, that's an in person discussion. On November 5th, 2020, Birchmore asked Farwell if he had given any more thought to their prior conversation and told him that she thought of a way they could both be happy. Birchmore says, how would you feel about us having a baby, you being there and signing the birth certificate? There's never going to be a need for your information anyway, so you'll be safe there, and I won't talk shit about her or your kids. That way, we both get what we want. You asked me the other day what I wanted, and I didn't want to give it to you in the form of an ultimatum, so I am trying to do it with you as a compromise thing of as a compromise type of thing. Can you tell me what you thought of? I'm down for discussing it in person, but the more I thought about it, you signing it really isn't going to have an impact on you because of the way things are going to fall in the future. He says, okay, that's an in person discussion. So she's sitting there trying to pressure him into signing the birth certificate. And I wouldn't say pressuring him, but just trying to talk about it and saying that it's not going to be a big deal and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, let's not talk about this now. He doesn't want to talk about it, I'm sure, because he doesn't want a baby with Birchmore. He might have only been doing it because she gave him that ultimatum. Um, all right, so next, in November 2020, after Birchmore learned that she was not yet pregnant, she asked Farwell about continuing to try to conceive for another month. On multiple occasions, Farwell told Birchmore that they would need to discuss the topic in person. Farwell continued to meet with Birchmore in person and text messages suggesting that they remained um, physically active. On December 28th, 2020, Birchmore sent Farwell a text message informing him that she was pregnant. She sent him a photo of a poster she had made to celebrate the pregnancy. Says, congrats, we are going to be parents 2021. She made a cute little poster. She was very, very excited, it seems. Farwell's immediate response to Birchmore's disclosure about the pregnancy was, I literally have nothing to say right now. How could you express that in a text when I said I don't appreciate it? Farwell and Birchmore then argued about the pregnancy in the following text message. He says, how far are you? She says, regardless of how far, we're keeping it, but 3.5 weeks. Birchmore says, which means I conceived this month. Farwell says, okay, we need to talk then. She says, no shit, that's obvious. And the birth certificate is being signed or hers isn't. And I don't know what that means. At the time of these text messages, I know that Farwell's wife was 8 months pregnant with his third child. Based on the context of these texts and prior messages, I believe Birchmore was referring to the birth certificate for the child that Farwell's wife was carrying. That makes sense. So we need to talk, that's obvious, and the birth certificate is being signed or hers isn't. So if you're not signing mine, then you're not signing hers. That was pretty clear. All right, so, well, speculating, she's making it clear, like, I'm not allowing you to sign hers if you, I'm speculating, and this person is speculating what they're saying or inferring, I guess. But it's like a final thing. Like, no, you're not. You're signing it, and or else, basically, is like her final. You're doing this. And she says, "No, I'm mad you're acting how you are over a choice we both made." He says, "I'm mad you act like you gave anyone a choice." Laughing, LMAO, oh, so you didn't have a choice? Question mark. Per usual, you make and do whatever you want, he says to her. So a little manipulation here. And yeah, he's saying that she does whatever she wants, but the whole relationship has been him controlling her and using his authority over her. Birchmore says, "All I did was say, can can I have it? You said, have what? And I said, you know what I'm asking for. And you stood up and said, yeah, you've been doing that. You mad she's due in February and I am in September and you don't know how you're going to be there for both of us. And you need to be there during labor for me too, because your kid should matter." She says late August, early September. And he says, "You are truly the worst person on the face of the earth." So he said that. Wow. After the foregoing conversation, Birchmore again threatened to expose the truth about Farwell's prior relation, SA, and their ongoing relationship. Farwell responded by indicating that Birchmore had threatened him, causing him to agree to impregnate her. Farwell says, "For the past week and a half, the doctor wasn't right, but now she was, and you just throw it at me 'cause now you've got me. You honestly have absolutely no idea how to treat people. I have effing bent over backwards for you. Now you want to act like this was some free will decision. You have threatened me from the word go. If I didn't do it and give you what you wanted, you would ruin me. I made a deal with you and you changed the terms at every turn. We will deal with this tomorrow." Sounds like a dad telling a kid, like, "We're going to deal with this tomorrow. We're going to deal with this when I get home, young man." Um, so he's condescending and yeah, I don't like him. All right, so Farwell's escalating physical violence. On December 29th, 2020, Farwell and Birchmore met to talk in person. After this meeting, Birchmore sent Farwell a text alluding to a physical encounter. Birchmore says, "It made me really uncomfortable and stressed out and scared when you were next to me because I thought you were going to hit me after you said what you said and took things out of my hand. That's why I was crying. I know you wouldn't, but it still scared me." She thought he was going to hit her. We know he pushed her. He was violent with her to some degree. So, not unheard of for her to be scared that he might do something physical to hurt her. At times, three witnesses have disclosed that in the weeks before her loss of life, Birchmore told them that Farwell was physically violent when Birchmore and Farwell discussed the pregnancy. According to autopsy records, Birchmore was 4 feet 10 inches tall. She's a shorty. She's a shorty. Military records indicate that Farwell is 6 feet 4 inches tall. He's a big man. 6'4". That's a pretty big guy. And Birchmore's under 5 feet. So think about that. Person 2 reported that in the weeks prior to Birchmore's loss of life, she was over the moon about her pregnancy. According to Person 2, Birchmore had decreased her coffee consumption, discussed winter clothes for the future baby, and engaged in FaceTime calls with Person 2 while selecting baby clothes. Person 2 indicated that Birchmore was nervous about telling Farwell about the pregnancy, but that she eventually did. In January 2021, Birchmore called Person 2 and stated that after telling Farwell about the baby, Farwell told her that he wished she would die and he wants nothing to do with the baby. Well, then. According to the information Birchmore shared with Person 2, Farwell put Birchmore in a headlock and grabbed her cell phone from her hand. Person 2 told Birchmore to distance herself from Farwell given that he was dangerous, a police officer, and obviously did not care about the law. However, Person 2 was also aware that Birchmore appeared to be attached to Farwell because he had taken her virginity when she was 15 years old. Person 3, I think they meant Person 2, also indicated that in the days before her loss of life, Birchmore disclosed that Farwell had been violent. Approximately 10 days before Birchmore's loss of life, Birchmore and Person 2 went to Walmart to buy a baby stroller for Birchmore's future child. Birchmore was excited. They keep saying Person 3 now. We've been talking about Person 2 this whole time, and now they changed it up to 3. I'll just read what's on the page. I don't know. Could be an error, could be a Person 3 that they haven't discussed yet. I don't remember seeing a Person 3. But anyways, okay, so approximately 10 days before Birchmore's loss of life, Birchmore and Person 3 went to Walmart to buy a baby stroller for Birchmore's future child. Birchmore was excited about the baby and asked Person 3 to be the child's godmother. Birchmore told Person 3 that the day prior, Farwell had gotten angry with her for showing him a fetal sonogram. According to Birchmore, Farwell told her, "That's not my child. I don't want anything really to do with you." And then Farwell pushed her to the ground. Wow. Person 3 then told Birchmore to end the relationship with Farwell. Person 3 indicated that Birchmore seemed scared but not ready to leave Farwell because Farwell had been such a big part of her life for several years. Additionally, Person 7, now we're on Person 7, so there must be other persons that they're just not listing here because now there's a Person 7. Birchmore's longtime therapist reported that in the weeks before Birchmore's loss of life, Birchmore reported that her and Farwell got upset, or that Farwell got upset about the impending pregnancy and shoved her. So she told multiple people about his violence. In addition to these descriptions of Farwell's violence targeting Birchmore from persons 2, 3, and 7, Birchmore's text messages to person 1 further confirm Farwell's escalating violence. On January 10, 2021, Birchmore sent person 1 a text message indicating that she had recently argued with Farwell. Birchmore told person 1 that during the argument, Farwell took her cell phone out of her hand 3 times and refused to give it back to her. Birchmore also indicated that Farwell took her computer out of her hand and used his body to shove her. Oh, okay. We just got to remember this dude is in prison, so let's be happy about that. He's been indicted by FBI. So justice for Sandra Birchmore is coming. In January 2021, the pressure on Farwell. Oh, I wonder what this is going to do to the civil suit, too, because the family of Sandra Birchmore has a civil suit on Matthew Farwell, among others, including Josh Heel, the town of Stoughton, the Stoughton Police Department, Robert Devine, and William Farwell. So they have a civil suit on all of those individuals. So I wonder how this charge is going to affect that civil suit because they are obviously alleging that Matthew Farwell had something to do with Sandra's loss of life. All right, so in January 2021, there was increasing pressure on Farwell. In January 2021, the pressure on Farwell increased as a result of Birchmore's pregnancy. Birchmore tried to communicate with Farwell regarding her due date, ultrasounds, genetic testing, gender reveals, and doctor's appointments. In his text responses, Farwell was unresponsive to or dismissive of those topics, or he appeared to ignore them. It was like suddenly she was no longer that object, that physical object that he just used for his physical desires. Now she's a person. Now she has another person growing inside of her, and she's not just some object that he's using for his own pleasures. Now he has responsibilities to that object, and he's not happy about that. So, yeah, more pressure. And that's why he's ignoring them and dismissive of those topics. On January 4th, 2021, Birchmore told Farwell that she was going to the doctor the next day and asked if he wanted to know how the appointment went. Farwell did not directly respond to that question, so he doesn't even care how the doctor's appointments are going. On January 5th, 2021, Birchmore asked Farwell to come over so they could discuss her estimated due date, the week of her first ultrasound, her conversation with her doctor, and her first appointment. Farwell did not respond directly to that request. Text messages from January 3rd, 2021 show that Birchmore asked Farwell if their child could have his last name. However, he told her he would not discuss that issue via text message. All of a sudden, he's like, I don't want to discuss anything text message wise, but we can have sexting and flirting and meet up for relations on the job, but that's a step too far. Let's not talk about that. I don't get it. Your phone is uh already shows you're guilty of a whole bunch of stuff. So why now is he like, let's not talk about this over text? Farwell's reluctance to discuss the pregnancy via text message is significant because it is inconsistent with Farwell and Birchmore's long history of text message discussions regarding seemingly private topics. For example, there are thousands of text messages between Farwell and Birchmore in which Farwell discusses details regarding his work as a police officer, his fantasies that were predominantly violent and included many references to choking and and graphic details about their previous encounters. Here's the text message exchange uh, between Birchmore and Farwell regarding that. So, regarding the last name. So I have a compromise for you. This is Birchmore texting. I have a compromise for you. You don't need to sign the BC the ba- if the baby can have your last name. And he says, not discussing in text, we can talk in person. In another text message on January 6, 2021, Birchmore began to ask Farwell what their family would look like. Birchmore said, one, you don't have to sign the BC if I'm allowed to at least list you and they can have your name and I won't move to Stoughton or the town where Farwell's family resides. Birchmore also says, number two, I won't bitch about holidays, but I would like to come a few days before Christmas and Easter so you can see what they get for me, and I don't want you to leave them out. And three, if you want to try and support them, we can talk about that, but I do want you to see them. Who's them? I feel like I'm trying to be as fair as I can, and I want you there for labor that I'm standing my ground on. Last name, she says. He says, okay, we can discuss this more in person. She says, okay, I figured, does it kind of sound okay to you? He says, it a lot to think about. It's so much more than you have ever asked for. She says, and still less than what any other girl would ask for. So you can see there's some not so happy times right now with Farwell and Birchmore. He's not happy she's pregnant. She's not happy he's so distant, and they have some issues here going on. And she's upset about him having a family, and why does she not get that? She's wondering why she doesn't get that kind of attention from him. So on January 20th, 2021, Person 2 called the Stoughton Police Department and in that call referenced the relationship between Birchmore and Farwell. After learning about this call, the fact of which suggested at least some aspect of Farwell's illicit conduct may have been exposed to the Stoughton Police Department, Farwell sent Birchmore text messages revealing his extreme anger. He sent her a series of text messages with expletives telling Birchmore that he thought no one knew about the relationship, that she had no clue how bad this was, and indicating that he does not know if he needs to worry about other disclosures. So he finds out that people are calling Stoughton PD. He knows Sandra's not keeping her mouth shut. She's not holding her end of the deal. That I'll be quiet and we can conceive, and I won't tell anybody about us. But she's telling people now. So now she's a problem. This is more motive for Farwell. He texts her, "Dude, your effing friend called my job, Sandra. WTF?" She says, question mark. He says, "Your friend, person whose name just called my effing work to complain about me. What WTF?" She says, "I don't know." He says, "What do you mean you don't know?" She says, "I literally just woke up." He said, "Did you steal from her?" "Nope." "What is going on?" He says, "You also told me that no one knew about us. She claimed we were effing." Birchmore said, "It's literally nothing." Farwell says, "It's not nothing. She called my job. That's insane. Why would she call and drop my effing name, Sandra? Like, what do I have to do with you not giving her something? Like, you have no idea how bad what she did is. I literally can't believe this is even real life. Like, what else do I have to worry about now? Which other friend would do something tomorrow?" So he's worried now about the friends that she's spilled the beans to. "During this investigation, I have interviewed Person 5, an employee of the Stoughton Police Department who received the call from Person 2 on January 20th, 2021. Got a little footnote here. Person 5 did not have an independent memory of the date of the call, but I have confirmed such date through business records." I just lost my place here for a second because I looked away. All right, so business records. Where was I? Somewhere here. Okay. Person 5 indicated that he or she took down Person two's name and information and gave it to Farwell. Person 5 indicated that Farwell immediately got angry and, quote unquote, pissed off and ordered Person 5 not to speak about this to anyone and to never talk about it again. Person 5 described Farwell's reaction as atypical and not consistent with his normal behavior. So, this is another Stoughton Police Department employee. They're just calling them an employee who took this call. And it could have been another officer, it could have just been staff, but somebody in the PD, at the Stoughton Police office, actually took the call and confronted Farwell directly. Farwell didn't like it. Birchmore's final days. I was saying I was only going to read a portion of this, but this is so interesting to me that I'm just going to continue and I think I'm going to finish it. I thought maybe I'd do like a part two, but I'm just going to keep going. So you guys get me for longer. All right, Birchmore's final days. On January 24th, 2021, approximately 1 week prior to Birchmore's loss of life, she communicated with Person 8 about Farwell. Birchmore says, "So, the father came by last night. It was like a complete 360 change." Person 8 says, "You mean 180?" "Yeah, LOL." Person 8 says, "Good or bad?" Birchmore says, "Good, but unexpected. So it kind of threw me off and made me a little uncomfortable, but that's because of how things were going. He asked me if I'd give him a key and said that if I keep it a secret, he'll be around and see them and all that." Who's them? See them? Their kids? Is it like multiple kids she wants? See them and all that. He'll be around and see them. If I keep it a secret, he'll be around and see them and all that. So it's somewhere. Then he looked in my closet and then the bathroom, but I don't know why haven't figured that out. That is effing eerie. To read those words back, Sandra texted to Person 8. Like he did this total 180 and it was unexpected. He asked for a key and said he could keep it a secret, and then he looked in her closet and the bathroom. She doesn't know why. Creepy. Birchmore says we started a heart to heart, then work called him, so he had to leave. Oh, and he brought me a ginger ale because I ran out. Person 8 says, "What about the birth certificate?" She says, "I think he's signing it, not sure. He's coming back again this week." But it was like a complete 180 from where we were at because he didn't even want to talk about the baby. So what day was that? January 24th. January 24th. So shortly thereafter, February 1st, is when he allegedly took her life. So, and he wanted a key right before he did that. Based on my training experience, I believe that Farwell's shift in demeanor on or about this date was his attempt to appease Birchmore until he could take her life. Additionally, the foregoing text messages, considered in light of the other evidence, suggests that Farwell was making a plan to take her life. Part of that plan included asking Birchmore to give him a key and keep it secret. Another part of that plan was inspecting various rooms of Birchmore's apartment, including the closet, to determine whether they contained items or presented options for how and when to take Birchmore's life. On February 4th, 2021, Canton police found Birchmore's body next to the closet door with a duffel bag strap around her neck. A duffel bag strap. So we've been hearing a belt, a strap, a scarf. Now it's being told to us a duffel bag strap that was found around her neck, was wrapped around the closet door handle and her neck. Barwell's request for a key for Birchmore's apartment in the week leading up to her loss of life is corroborated by other evidence. I have reviewed text messages between Farwell and Birchmore from January 24th, in which Birchmore gave Farwell the passcode to her building's front door and told him, "I have your key too when you want it." Additionally, I have reviewed records from Walmart that suggest that Birchmore did, in fact, pay approximately $2 to have a key copied at approximately 11:10 a.m. on January 24th, 2024. According to text messages Birchmore and Farwell exchanged on January 29th, 2021, Birchmore again gave Farwell the passcode to her building's front door, and Farwell verified that the code was the general one given to the entire building, not just one assigned to her. So, okay. Farwell requesting or accepting a key to Birchmore's apartment was a sudden change from recent conversations. I have reviewed text messages from between Farwell and Birchmore, one as recent as October 14th, 2020, in which Farwell told her that he did not think it was a good idea for him to keep a key to her new Canton apartment. In a conversation with her friend, Person 9, on January 24th, 2021, Birchmore indicated that she was surprised that Farwell was now requesting a key to her apartment. Person 9 says, "Did it go good with him?" She says, "I got hit with a shocker question. Can I call you?" So what really, well, surprisingly, he asked if he could have a key, and I basically said, he'll be around as long as I keep it a secret and I don't tell anybody. But he did admit that I do have the upper hand in the situation, which isn't a good thing, but I'm trying to and not be that person, if you know what I mean. Person 9 says, "I get it. Are you going to give him a key?" She says, "I just made a copy of it." Yeah. Person 9 says, "That's good." Birchmore says, "I'm not going to give it to him yet, but he also brought me a ginger ale last night." Sorry, I had a cough really bad. It tickled my throat. All right, so person 9 says he's coming around now. Birchmore says a lot more than I thought he was going to. Yes. I still have to verify the PIN for him to get into the apartment if he rings me and I don't answer. But like last night, he opened my closet door for something and then he went in my bathroom looking for at my bathroom, and then I have a dolly in my living room that he asked why I had it. Was just really odd. He started looking around. I don't know. Sentence, or this whole paragraph right here, is basically her noticing how odd his behavior was as he searched her apartment for areas where he could take her life. Person 9 says that's weird, because it is. Birchmore says, "Yeah, it was really weird." According to text messages between Farwell and Birchmore 2 days before Birchmore's loss of life, she continued to engage Farwell about planning the birth of their child. On January 30th, Birchmore asked Farwell if she could tell him the baby names that she was considering. Farwell told her he would rather discuss the topic in person. Leading up to February 1st, 2021, Birchmore planned for other important baby related events, such as who would care for her cats when she went into labor. This planning is of note because it indicates that shortly before her loss of life, Birchmore was doing things that indicated her plans for the future. It is also important because it reveals a level of care for her pets that is inconsistent with the circumstances of her loss of life. Specifically, when police found Birchmore's body in her apartment, her cats were present. She had made no arrangements for the animals, which is a pretty big tell that she didn't take her own life, especially if she was worried about where they were going to be when she was going into labor. She ordered baby items and conducted Google searches related to her pregnancy and future child rearing decisions. She also planned for newborn baby photos, an official pregnancy announcement, which she planned to do on Valentine's Day, as well as a gender reveal. So she just 2 weeks away from revealing the gender of the baby and making the official announcement. She also made plans for her more immediate future, scheduling an OB/GYN appointment for February 10th, 2021, and asking Farwell to help shovel out her car during the impending snowstorm. During the investigation, oh wait, where's 11? Oh, gender reveal. During the investigation, agents also learned that Birchmore had been taking classes in preparation for applying to nursing school. Again, these are all things that show that she had a mind for the future. She was planning on things. She was not thinking of her life as if it was ending in the near future. The day before Birchmore lost her life, on February 1st, 2021, at 12:19 p.m., Birchmore sent Farwell text messages indicating that she was going to be released early at 12:35 p.m. from her job at the Sharon Public Schools. Farwell told her that he would not be in the area that day. Later in the afternoon of February 1st, 2021, Birchmore told Farwell that she had received an early gift in the mail and that she was not planning to have a baby shower until late March because of the then ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. She told Farwell that once she learned whether they were having a boy or a girl, she wanted him to purchase clothes for the child to wear when he or she came home from the hospital. Investigators have reviewed surveillance videos from Birchmore's Canton apartment building. I am aware that the electronic timestamp on the apartment complex's video surveillance system was off by approximately 13 minutes. The surveillance video times set forth in the affidavit account for this 13-minute difference and are therefore the approximate real times of the events. So we don't have to do any math in our head. That's great because I can't. On February 1st, 2021, she is seen on the video at approximately 5:01 p.m. accepting a DoorDash order and then again going outside briefly and returning with a snow brush at 5:31 p.m. and 5:33 p.m. respectively. The last time Birchmore is seen alive on the video is on February 1st at 5:33 p.m. Later that evening, at approximately 9:08 p.m., Farwell sent Birchmore a text message asking whether he could come by for a second. At approximately 9:10 p.m., Birchmore sent Farwell a text message indicating that when he arrived at her apartment, the door would be open for him. This is the last known outgoing message sent from Birchmore's cell phone. This is news too. I mean, we knew that she stopped texting and communicating with her friends after or shortly before Matthew Farwell came over, but we did not know this. The last known outgoing message sent from Birchmore was that the door would be open for him. So creepy, eerie, gives me chills. I don't like it, but it's good to know. Like now we're getting some more details and finding out a little bit more what happened, what she went through. Surveillance video shows Farwell entering Birchmore's Canton apartment building at 9:14 p.m. And timestamp said, or footnote says, I have reviewed Massachusetts State Police investigative reports, which tentatively identify Farwell as the person on surveillance footage entering Birchmore's apartment on February 1st, 2021. I have also reviewed a report regarding the state police detective's interview of Farwell, in which Farwell admitted that he went to Birchmore's apartment on February 1st. In that interview, Farwell stated that he had been there between 9:10 and 9:30 p.m. So he was there approximately 20 minutes. Ooh, where did I come from? Where did you come from? Where did you go? All right, here we are. In this surveillance video, Farwell is wearing street clothes, a hoodie with the hood up, and a face mask that is similar to the medical face masks that many people use during the COVID-19 pandemic. I have interviewed multiple witnesses who have each indicated that Farwell resisted wearing a mask during the pandemic. One of these witnesses stated that Farwell would only wear a mask when on duty and required by department policy to do so. The video surveillance recording shows that Farwell left Birchmore's apartment at 9:43 p.m. Canton police officers found Birchmore's body on February 4th, 2021. On February 4th, Canton police officers conducted a well-being check at Birchmore's apartment. One of Birchmore's co-workers called the police because Birchmore had failed to show up for work that day. When officers arrived, they found Birchmore's body seated on the floor in a reclined position with a duffel bag strap tied around her neck. That strap was connected to her closet doorknob, the closet that Farwell had inspected approximately 1 week earlier. At least one first responder quickly concluded that Birchmore had been deceased for, quote, days. I have reviewed crime scene photographs that depict Birchmore wearing the same clothing that she was wearing when she was seen on the video entering her apartment on February 1st, 2021 at approximately 5:30 p.m. This is consistent with Birchmore having lost her life later that same evening, so February 1st. According to police reports, when Birchmore's body was found, her cell phone was on the floor located approximately 12 inches from her right hand and 6 inches from her bent right knee. I reviewed the data on Birchmore's phone. A log report indicates that the phone was locked from 9:13 p.m. on February 1st, 2021 until the device powered off because of battery loss on February 3rd. On February 1st, while still locked, Birchmore's phone recorded a screenshot of a black screen at 9:18. In other words, after sending a final text message to Farwell to tell him that the door was unlocked, Birchmore's phone locked and was not unlocked until after the device was recovered by police. Health data on Birchmore's phone indicates that the last movement recorded by the phone on February 1st, 2021 occurred at 9:40 p.m. This is based on my training and experience. I am aware that Apple iPhones can be used to track and retain health-related data of the user, including but not limited to steps taken. Where was I? So health data on her phone indicated that the last movement recorded was on February 1st, around 9:40. That was 3 minutes before Farwell was captured on surveillance video leaving Birchmore's apartment. Specifically, this data indicates that the mechanism that Apple uses to record movement registered 8 steps at approximately 9:40 p.m. These recorded steps occurred while Farwell was still in Birchmore's apartment. Mic drop, boom. So, what's he got to say about that? The phone recorded no additional steps between 9:40 p.m. and the time it was recovered by first responders on February 4th, 2021. As noted above, first responders ultimately found the phone next to Birchmore's body. Based on my review of the frequency of Birchmore's phone use over weeks, months, and years leading up to her loss of life, her failure to access her phone is inconsistent with her usual habits when alive and awake. This author also says, I have also interviewed multiple witnesses who have reported on Birchmore's frequent, almost incessant phone use. In fact, one witness referred to Birchmore's phone as her third hand. It's kind of funny. So I reviewed Birchmore's phone use from the hours leading up to her loss of life on February 1st, 2021. The following are some of the items in Birchmore's phone data from the hours before her loss of life. This is evidence that appears to be inconsistent with Birchmore, a pregnant woman choosing to lose her life by self-deletion that day. So at 1:25 to 1:31 p.m., Birchmore communicated with a photographer regarding the timeline for booking a newborn photography shoot. At 7:57 p.m., Birchmore texted a friend to obtain baby clothes from her. At 8:25 p.m., Birchmore performed a Google search for Cubby Kids furniture. That is not, those are not the searches and actions of someone who was going to shortly take her life thereafter. And if her last steps were when Matt Farwell was in the apartment, then did he watch her take her life? I mean, seriously, you can't get dumber than some of these cops who think that they're smarter than the law. So, because she's taking steps, those are her last steps. She's not gonna. If okay, let's say she took her own life after Matt left. Where are the steps to prove that she went and grabbed the strap and got herself into the bedroom and did that? So it very much seems like he brought her in there and did that. So the condition of and items found in Birchmore's apartment were inconsistent with Birchmore dying by self-deletion. I have interviewed family members who helped clean Birchmore's apartment in the following days of her loss of life. Some of the things they observed were also inconsistent with Birchmore deciding to take her life. For example, during their first visit, they noted that Birchmore had been in the middle of doing laundry when she lost her life, with a load of wet clothes in the washing machine and another load dry in the dryer. Probably not something you would leave for others to clean up. Additionally, they observed a homemade sign saying, Congratulations, you're going to be a father. Oh, she was excited to talk to him about the baby, and he took her life that night. That sign had an ultrasound photo on it and was sprinkled with glitter. Additionally, in Birchmore's apartment, family members observed a new baby stroller that was still in its package. They also observed homemade and store-bought onesies for a baby. One onesie read, We're going to be parents, and with a set of footprints underneath. Birchmore had packages that had been delivered recently, including clothing and other supplies for her baby. Birchmore had ordered items shortly before her loss of life, and packages continued to arrive in the days following her homicide. Finally, family members found a necklace that belongs to Birchmore lying on the floor of her bedroom. This necklace consisted of a thin gold chain with a pink flamingo charm, and we've got a footnote. In my review of Birchmore's phone data, I noticed several photos of Birchmore in which she is wearing this necklace. The family members observed that the necklace chain was broken, but not the clasp. So the clasp didn't break, but somewhere along the chain broke, which is odd. Usually they break by the clasp. There was also a large clump of hair on the chain. From my review of the crime scene photos, I observed that while the strap was still around Birchmore's neck, the necklace was broken and hanging from the left side of her neck. The necklace's charm was on the right side of her abdomen. Autopsy and medical evidence. The medical examiner pathologist herein, the medical examiner performed an autopsy on Birchmore's body. Medical examiner determined that Birchmore's cause of loss of life was asphyxia by hanging. Medical examiner ruled Birchmore's manner of death as a self-deletion. The medical examiner's written autopsy report noted that Birchmore's hyoid bone, a U-shaped bone in the front of the neck, so it's like right under, you can like almost feel like a weird like dip in your bones here, your collarbones or whatever these are. Um, and that's not your collar, but I don't know what this is. Anyways, so in the front of your neck, and when that's broken, it's often a sign of homicide, strangulation. It was fractured on the right side, and she suffered from petechial hemorrhages of the bulbar and pal- palpebral. I have no idea how I'm saying these things. Conjunctiva. Okay, medical words are not my forte. Additionally, the medical examiner concluded that Birchmore had a hemorrhage of her left sternothyroid muscle. So hemorrhages and broken necklace, broken hyoid bone. Medical examiner's autopsy report further confirmed that Birchmore was approximately 8 to 10 weeks pregnant at the time of her death. The autopsy included toxicology testing. The results of the toxicology tests were negative for all substances except for sertraline, which was likely explained by the antidepressants that Birchmore had been prescribed. A part of this investigation, the government retained Dr. William Smock as an expert to independently review the crime scene photos, autopsy photos, and the medical examiner's autopsy report. Dr. Smock is an emergency medicine residency and forensic fellowship trained physician with more than 40 years of experience in the forensic evaluation of injuries, crime scenes, the forensic evaluation and reconstruction of wounds, including asphyxia related deaths. His training, experience, and position as a police surgeon, instructor at the Louisville Metro Police Academy, instructor for the U.S. Department of Justice, a professor of emergency medicine, medical director of an EMS service, physician and medical advisor to the FBI and U.S. Marshal Service, and an assistant medical examiner with the Kennedy Medical Examiners, includes the emergency treatment, investigation, and reconstruction of asphyxia related deaths and the analysis of crime scene for evidence of alteration. Whew, that was a long ass sentence with some big words. So he has quite the CV, quite the resume to be an expert in these kinds of things. And asphyxia related deaths is this person's forte. So he has treated and evaluated thousands of patients, both fatally and non fatally injured, who have experienced the physiological consequences of asphyxia, including strangulation. Dr. Smock has written, lectured extensively, and trained thousands of law enforcement officers, physicians, nurses, judges, and attorneys on evidence collection, crime scene investigation, the analysis and the reconstruction of wounds, injury mechanisms, and the medical risks and consequences of asphyxia. That's a lot of stuff that he does. Good job, dude. I'm losing my oxygen, getting lightheaded, saying all your things that you have. Hold on one sec. All the dogs were burned downstairs, so sorry. All right, so Dr. Smock has written, lectured, and done all this stuff. Based on the review of the evidence, Dr. Smock has made several observations and conclusions that call into question the prior finding that Birchmore's cause of her loss of life was suicide, and instead further confirms that Birchmore's cause of loss of life was a homicide. So not self-deletion, but uh, taken by someone else's hands. First, Dr. Smock concluded that the fracture of the right superior horn of Birchmore's hyoid bone is not consistent with the position in which first responders found her sitting. A sitting hanging is called an incomplete hanging, meaning only partial body weight is applied to the neck ligature. Dr. Smock's review of hundreds of cases of hangings in the forensic medical um, literature found no reported cases of hyoid bone fractures in seated women. Fractures of the hyoid bone are more commonly seen in strangulation assaults and in hangings with full body weight applied to the ligature, but not in seating hangings. Second, Dr. Smock noted that during the autopsy, a pattern imprint was documented on Birchmore's right upper chest. The pattern imprint was the consequence of the buckle or buckles from the ligature strap being forced downward into Ms. Birchmore's chest. The presence of this pattern imprint is not consistent with a ligature hanging. Rather, the presence of the pattern is consistent with blunt force trauma from an assault. So, not done by Sandra, somebody else's hands. When first responders found Birchmore's body, the buckle responsible for the imprint was observed just below the right ear. However, the location of the imprint on her chest is not consistent with the incomplete ligature hanging. Third, Dr. Smock reviewed the autopsy photos that depict Birchmore with areas of skin missing from the inferior and lateral aspects of her nose, consistent with abrasions. She was struggling. She was struggling with him. These types of injuries are commonly seen in cases of suffocation when the victim moves their nose back and forth in an effort to breathe. Fourth, Dr. Smock noted that Birchmore was in the habit of always wearing a chain necklace with a flamingo pendant. The chain was found broken around Birchmore's neck. The breaking of Birchmore's chain necklace is consistent with a struggle. Dr. Smock, based on his education, experience, training, and his review of the materials in this case, opined with a reasonable degree of medical and scientific certainty that the cause of Ms. Birchmore's loss of life is asphyxia and that the manner of death is homicide. So now we have another medical examiner, this Dr. Smock, who trains everyone in the FBI and their mother uh, about asphyxia related injuries and loss of life. So now he's saying this was definitely taken, her life was taken at the hands of someone else. So, Massachusetts State Police interview of Matthew Farwell. On February 6, 2021, 2 days after police found Birchmore's body in her apartment, Massachusetts State Police detectives interviewed Farwell. The interview occurred in the parking lot of a Stoughton Elementary School. During the interview, Farwell made several false statements about his relationship with Birchmore. Farwell told officers that he was involved in a physical relationship with Birchmore, but he claimed the relationship only began in 2020, making her an adult. Based on this investigation, Farwell's statements to detectives was false because he knew for a fact that he was having relations with her when she was a minor. As described above, Farwell began having relations with her in 2013 and continued to have relations with her until she lost her life at his hands. Farwell told detectives that he only had relations with Birchmore 2 or 3 times in the previous year. We know that's a lie. That statement was also false based on text messages between Farwell and Birchmore. Farwell had relations with Birchmore on at least 10 occasions between January 1st, 2020 and February 1st, 2021. Farwell also told detectives that he could not have been the father of Birchmore's unborn child because the last time that he had intercourse with her he was October 2020. This statement was also false. Set forth below is a text message conversation between Farwell and Birchmore on November 18th, 2020, in which they discussed an upcoming encounter. Farwell says, I'm going to try for tonight. I've been in interviews all day from the homicide. Sorry. Birchmore says, exciting. Okay, I'm running to the store and doing something for you then. I hope you can come. Farwell says, what are you doing for me? She says, LOL, shaving. He says, are you planning on rolling me over? I need to know what you want if you come. He says, if you want me to roll you, Farwell continues, would you want me to use a condom if I roll you? Birchmore says, I don't have any. LOL, I never picked any up. Birchmore says, do you want me to just take what you do or try and say no? I know being told no is your favorite. He says, say no. She says, winky face, I can do that. He wants the struggle, the fight. That's so disturbing. Approximately 21 minutes after the foregoing text messages, Farwell told Birchmore that he was at her apartment, and subsequent text messages indicate that she let him in. Approximately 25 minutes later, Birchmore asked Farwell via text message whether he enjoyed having vaginal sex with her again, and he responded, yeah. During the February 6, 2021 interview, Farwell told detectives that he had been at Birchmore's apartment on the night of February 1st, 2021. However, he denied having anything to do with her loss of life. He told detectives that he had arrived around 9:10 p.m. and left around 9:30 p.m. I am aware from my review of surveillance footage from Birchmore's apartment building that Farwell actually left at 9:43 p.m., which is 3 minutes later than Birchmore's last steps. That was after Birchmore's phone stopped sending messages or recording movement. Within approximately 13 hours of Farwell's visit to Birchmore's apartment on February 1st, his wife gave birth to their third child at Newton Wellesley Hospital, adding to the intensifying pressure to ensure that Birchmore would not disclose information regarding Farwell's conduct. So baby number 3 is about to be born, very same time frame that Sandra Birchmore becomes pregnant and starts asking more and more from Farwell. So the pressure's on. Farwell told detectives that he had not seen Birchmore at all in the week leading up to her loss of life, except during the visit to her apartment on the 1st. Based on my review of the text messages between Farwell and Birchmore, Farwell visited Birchmore at her apartment on January 29th, also, just a few days later. And remember, that's the same day where he was looking at her closet door and her bathroom door and looking all over her apartment, and he wanted a key, and he wanted us to keep it a secret that he had a key. So it's the same. Yeah, he was there for sure. All right, so Farwell told detectives that Birchmore had been sectioned many times. Based on my training and experience, sectioned is a term that Massachusetts law enforcement officers often use to refer to a practice of involuntarily hospitalizing on a temporary basis persons with severe mental health issues. However, the Stoughton Police Department, the law enforcement agency in the town where Birchmore lived her whole life before moving to Canton on or about December 1st, 2020, has a record of Birchmore being subject to this temporary mental health hospitalization only one time in May of 2020. According to police records and information disclosed by Person 7 on that day, Birchmore had gotten into a fight with a family member who called the police and reported Birchmore was going to harm herself. The police took Birchmore to the hospital where she was evaluated and deemed not at risk for self-harm. She was released a few hours later. According to Person 7, Birchmore stated that she was not in the mind frame to take her own life, just angry at her family member. Additionally, I am aware that minutes after Birchmore's release from this unfounded section, Farwell and Birchmore engaged in a graphic conversation about adult things. Later, Birchmore apologized for worrying Farwell, and Farwell replied, I wasn't worried. I know you are fine. Okay, that's weird. He's like, I wasn't worried. All right, so the Canton Police Department had no record of Birchmore being subject to temporary mental health hospitalization. While there is evidence that indicates that Birchmore may have had ideations of taking her own life on a few occasions between 2016 and 2018, which Farwell likely knew about because he was exploiting her during that time, I am not aware of credible evidence of any ideations in the approximately 3 years leading up to her loss of life. In fact, all of the witnesses who agents interviewed about their interactions with Birchmore in the weeks leading up to her loss of life suggested that during that period she was exciting, optimistic, and involved in future planning. Again, not depressed, not sad, not someone who would seem to want to take their own life. Person 7 had a therapy session with Birchmore. Remember, Person 7 is her therapist on January 31st, 2021. So the day after Matt came over and basically identified places to hang her. During that meeting, Person 7 screened Birchmore for any signs of depression and ideation. He or she found none. Person 7 had regular sessions with Birchmore and noted no signs of depression or ideations of taking her own life in the months leading up to Birchmore's loss of life and had her next appointment scheduled for February 4th. So the day that she was found, she was actually supposed to go and be in therapy again. Additionally, Farwell told detectives that he had been trying to distance himself from Birchmore. This is inconsistent with evidence that in Birchmore's final days, Farwell asked for a key to her apartment. I have also reviewed a text message from January 28, 2021, just days before Birchmore's loss of life, in which Farwell told her that when he came over that night, he would give her hugs. In that same conversation, he told her that he may not be able to visit her because he was at a death, but that it was all good because we do them all the time. So he was working an investigation. And I am aware that Farwell's time as the Stoughton police officer and then detective, he responded to unattended deaths. That was his what he did. In addition, I have reviewed a text message exchange between Birchmore and Farwell from January 29th, in which Birchmore expressed joy at Farwell agreeing to engage in physical activities again with her. So were they not at that time? I don't know. They were. It seems like he was back and forth and used uh, adult time for ways in which he could coerce her or get his way with her. Farwell's post-interview conduct. So, following Birchmore's loss of life, the Stoughton Police Department placed Farwell on administrative leave. Around that time, Farwell met a coworker, Person 4, at a local bar during the meeting. Farwell told Person 4 that he had a physical relationship with Birchmore. However, according to Person 4, at no point during that conversation did Farwell express any sadness, grief, or remorse about Birchmore's loss of life. Farwell told Person 4 that he was angry with MSP for looking into him. So he's mad at the Massachusetts State Police for looking at him, but not the fact that this woman that he had a relationship with is no longer in his life. He's not sad about that, but he's mad that the MSP are looking into him for it, even though he was the last person that she talked to and saw. At some point during the summer of 2021, Person 4 attended a social gathering with Farwell, during which Farwell participated in a joke about Birchmore being hung on the door. It's not a joke. Additional evidence relevant to detention: Farwell had a history of choking Birchmore. Through this investigation, agents have identified evidence that Farwell expressed an interest in violent adult relations and has a history of choking Birchmore. On more than one occasion, Farwell asked Birchmore to perform his R fantasies during relations, whereby Birchmore would pretend to be the victim of Farwell's simulated essays. Moreover, I have reviewed text messages that indicate that over the course of their relationship, Farwell initiated the concept of choking Birchmore on numerous occasions. In 2020, the year preceding her loss of life, text messages reveal that Farwell told Birchmore on at least 20 separate occasions that he would grab her throat, pin her down by her throat, squeeze her throat, or choke her during essay or adult physical activities. These messages were sent on the following dates, and she provides many, many, many dates, and I'm not going to read through all of them. You can see them all highlighted here. He has a fetish for choking, apparently. So, based on my review of Birchmore's journal entries as early as 2013, when Birchmore was just 16 years old, Farwell introduced the idea of choking during their adult encounters and discussions. One such example of Farwell promising to choke Birchmore occurred on October 14th, 2020, when Farwell told Birchmore that he was going to cover her mouth during relations and maybe I'll choke you a little. In the same conversation, Farwell told Birchmore, I'll grab your throat and say you won't say a word to anyone. It was very disturbing. On October 15th, 2020, Farwell told Birchmore that during their next encounter, he was going to grab her throat and say, STFU now, or I won't pull out. Based on my training and experience, I know the acronym STFU means shut the F up. It's funny that she put that out there. Okay. So on November 13th, 2020, or he, I don't know the gender of this person who was writing this. On November 13th, 2020, Farwell and Birchmore again discussed choking. In that conversation, Farwell told Birchmore, "Maybe I'll hold you down by your throat while I pound you." He asked her how tight he could squeeze, and then stated that he wanted her to feel like, "OMG, this is really happening and I can't stop it." Okay, then. Farwell used violent relations as a form of punishment. Birchmore's journal entries from 2013 through 2020 detail a continuous and sometimes violent relationship with Farwell. Birchmore often journaled about Farwell using these adult acts to punish her. According to her journal entries, Farwell would engage in forceful oral, vaginal, and anal acts to punish her for her mistakes, such as getting bad grades, having intercourse with other people, or failing to share her cell phone location with him. Failing to share her cell phone location with him and having intercourse with others when he was passing her around to other people. They haven't even gotten to that yet, but we do know that that was happening, and that's how Divine and his twin brother got involved with her. So hence the trafficking portion of what he was doing with her. So I have reviewed numerous text messages that Farwell sent Birchmore, including some from March of 2019, which are consistent with Farwell's practice of using certain acts to punish her for lying or being intimate with someone else. For example, in a text conversation on March 7th, 2019, Farwell said, "You would have to take a serious pounding to make me happy." She says, "Is it for everything?" He says, "No. You owe me 3." What? Farwell says, "I'll give you a break and spread them out." She says, "Please, not the same day." He says, "No, I'll give you like a week so you can feel it. And then as soon as it goes away, you'll get it again so you feel it for like a whole month." She says, "Not going to be a fun month." He says, "Not for you." Wow. I mean, I just have no words. Farwell's fixation with our fantasies. Text messages between Farwell and Birchmore reveal Farwell's interest in SA. For example, in one text conversation on November 8th, 2020, Farwell told Birchmore that he enjoyed having relations with her. When Birchmore asked what would be perfect for him, Farwell replied, "You say no and make me take it." Full R word. When Birchmore indicated that she was amendable to that, Farwell responded, "Doesn't matter, I'll do whatever I want anyways." During another text message conversation between Farwell and Birchmore, Farwell instructed Birchmore to call him daddy during encounters. In that conversation on October 18th, 2020, Farwell told Birchmore that daddy was going to engage in anal with her. He also indicated that when he was done, he was going to grab her hair, pull her head back, and tell her to keep her effing mouth shut. Do you understand me? Farwell has obsessive and controlling tendencies. Text messages between Farwell and Birchmore include Farwell's repeated demands that Birchmore set her phone's location sharing settings to allow him to always view her location. In these text conversations, Farwell indicated Birchmore needed to share this information in order to gain back his trust for his alleged lies and infidelity. Farwell indicated Birchmore needed to share this information in order to gain back his trust. Wow. On March 11th, 2019, Farwell asked Birchmore why her location was off and why he could no longer see it. On March 22nd, Farwell asked Birchmore to reveal her location. When she responded that she was at a 7-Eleven, Farwell told her that he knew she was in Abington, and he asked multiple times why she would go there when Stoughton has 100 convenience stores. On April 22nd, Farwell sent Birchmore a text message stating, "I know you're hiding shit. Your location is off again." On June 22nd, Farwell sent Birchmore a text message asking why she turned off her location data the other day. July 5th, Farwell again reached out to Birchmore saying, I see your location is off. In July of 2020, Farwell apparently transitioned from wanting to track Birchmore's location to prioritizing secrecy. Farwell says, you can turn your location back off if you want. Birchmore says, it wasn't off. That's why I wasn't sure why it wasn't showing up. Then I just unshared and reshared it with you. You can have it. It's been a thing for years, lol. He says, lol, okay. Birchmore says, I don't care if you know where I am. I'm not doing anything I shouldn't be. My legs shaking a shit ton right now. I'm feeling that tomorrow. He says, lol, I know that I just don't really like any of the stuff. Big brother is always watching. Birchmore says, I don't understand what you mean. Farwell says, I'm just saying iPhones keep track of way too much stuff. I don't mean anything by it. So iPhones keep track of things because I can track your whereabouts at all times, but also iPhones and cell bright extractions and those kinds of things do keep track of your text messages when you're illegally having relations with someone who is underage and then continuing to abuse them even after they turn into an adult. Farwell's iCloud account contains disturbing images regarding violence and necrophilia. Well, this is just, I mean, it just gets better and better. I'm glad I'm reading this to you, question mark. I mean, it's interesting and we're learning a lot. I think I'm going to be disturbed for several days here, but that's all right. We're almost done. So during this investigation, pursuant to a federal search warrant, agents obtained and reviewed data from Farwell's iCloud account. Located in Farwell's iCloud were several memes that indicate his interest in intercourse with dead bodies. A meme that states, what does a pulse and an organism have in common? I don't care if she has either. Another meme states, if you F a corpse on a waterbed, it feels like they're participating. Meme glorifying a person who takes the life of and SAs someone who no one will miss. Farwell's iCloud data also contains images that reveal his interest in domestic and intimate violence. A meme containing a photo of a woman with tape over her mouth that states duct tape turning no, no, no into since 1942. Farwell's iCloud data also includes images that could reveal his interest in strangulation. For example, one such image states, when she says, choke me, daddy, and you get carried away, and now she's no longer alive. There is also a screenshot of an image of a woman saying that she could not sleep, followed by a man choking her, saying, good night, bitch. All right. Farwell's efforts to conceal his crimes on February 9th, 2021, after giving his personal cell phone to state police detectives, Farwell used his Stoughton police issued cell phone to make and delete 2 Google searches. First, he gives over his personal cell phone to state police, and then on his state issued phone, sorry, on his personal cell phone, they take it, and then his state issued cell phone, he makes these 2 Google searches. First, Farwell searched for and deleted, can delete iMessage be removed? HY. I don't know what HY cell by Cellbrite. By Cellbrite, maybe? He then searched for and deleted, can you revoke consent in Massachusetts? I have identified text messages between Farwell and Birchmore in which Farwell directed Birchmore to destroy evidence of their physical, intimate relationship. On March 11th, 2019, Farwell sent Birchmore a text reminding her to make sure you clear all this out. On the 19th, Farwell sent Birchmore text about his desire to use his adult intimate violence and to pretend to are her. At the end of this conversation, Farwell sent her a text indicating that he was going to bed and instructed her to clear out this text. On June 5th, 2019, Farwell directed Birchmore to make sure all of their text messages and Facebook messages had been deleted. There are also text messages between Farwell and Birchmore in which Farwell directed Birchmore to destroy evidence regarding the beginning of their relationship. This would be evidence of Farwell's efforts to coerce and entice Birchmore to engage in physical intercourse when she was 15. Farwell says, "Wish we had just done it for real the first time." She says, "I know you do, baby." Sad face. He says, "It would have been perfect." She says, "Yes." Birchmore says, "Was it still perfect the first time?" He says, "Of course it was, baby." She says, smiley face. Farwell says, "I never thought you'd let me." She says, "I never thought you would." He says, "I wanted it so bad." She says, "So did I. I knew the day we made eye contact, I wanted you to F me." She corrects herself, says wanted. He says, "You should have told me. We could have effed so much sooner." She says, smiley face. "Clear out that part out, baby." She says, "I did. Good girl." So the talking about their relationship and that he tells her to clear out her text messages. In conclusion, finally, the information set forth above supports the government's motion to detain Matthew Farwell pending trial in this case. And then it's from Special Agent Cheney Castruda, or however you say it. And that was submitted today. So there you have it. Matthew Farwell is being detained now. Excuse me, one second. Itchy throat, and then I can't talk. All right, so so Matthew Farwell has been detained by the FBI. They want a trial, I'm sure, unless he makes some kind of a plea deal, but pending trial for this case, they are keeping him um, in their custody. So, yeah, some pretty interesting and gruesome things that we learned that we didn't have information on earlier. This particular affidavit gave us a lot of stuff I wish I didn't know. But now that we do know, we know a little bit more about what Sandra was going through. And we have a little, like, she's a human, and we have to realize, she's not just this person that's gone now. We have to humanize her and remember her for what she was, and what the different things that she was going through that day, the emotions she was going through in the relationship she had with Farwell. I mean, he was messing with her head from day one. So she thought that she wanted him from the very beginning of the relationship, when in all reality, he had been grooming her for who knows how long until he got her to do the things that he wanted her to do. But now she's like so brainwashed by it because of his grooming and his efforts to keep everything a secret, that she doesn't know the difference. She doesn't know, or maybe she had some semblance of knowing, because she did kind of hold that over his head, as in, "I'm going to tell everybody what you did to me if you don't give me a baby." So that's also interesting news. We did know that she was trying, but we didn't know that she was basically giving him an ultimatum, like, "I'm going to tell your wife if you don't give me a baby." So it seems like Matthew had enough, and he was not going to take it anymore. She was an obstacle in his life. She complicated his life. Now that she was speaking up, telling people who he was, that he was the father of her baby, that he was having a relationship with her, people were starting to talk. People were finding out he couldn't handle the pressure anymore, obviously. And why the hell did it take so long for them to arrest him? I do not know, but we are starting, finally, the FBI is starting to come down and take these people out one by one. Justice for Sandra Birchmore first. That happened in 2021. Up next, we'll have justice for John O'Keefe and Karen Reed. That came in 2022. Same players, same DA's office, a lot of similar investigators. So, Government is dropping the hammer, and I'm here for it, and I'm waiting to see who the next person is that will be indicted. Who do you think it's going to be? Probably my guess would be Robert Devine or William Farwell, but um, we don't know. We will not know until it's all said and done. And I can't wait for all of the info to come out as it does. So I will be here giving you updates as we learn more. So make sure that you are subscribed to my channel. Please hit the like button on your way out. And thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye now.